Good morning. Welcome back to Business. My name is Simba Elijah Charles. Thank you very much for taking your time here to stay with us. 2146 at Metropole TVKE. That is how you can get as a Charles underscore Kiage. Now, KRA adjusted excise duty on a select number of products, including fuel, bottled water, and juice by 4.94%, in line with the average inflation rate for the year to June. Just days after the reopening of bars following a lengthy COVID-19 lockdown. Now, the taxman published the new excise taxes in the Gazette notice last Friday, paving the way for manufacturers to adjust prices of the various goods starting October 1st. Good. Under the current law, the KRA Commissioner General only needs to issue a legal notice stating the adjustment for the new tax to become effective. Now, the sector lobby, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, KAM, had urged the taxman to pause the implementation of the annual inflation adjustment tax that affects excisable goods, citing economic hardships as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. Let's take a look at the performance, therefore, of that excise duty that has been readjusted. Good. All the way from 2014 to 2015 up to where we are 2018, 2019 and 2017, 2018. That's what we see the biggest contribution of excise duty in terms of how much the taxman was taking home. And remember, we're still here within that law where the commissioner just needs to issue a legal notice stating that they have adjusted that in relation to what the inflation rates are at that year. Okay, we're going to look at another graph as well that's going to show us exactly how the revenue performance has been for the taxman. Again, let's take a look at that as well this morning. If you look at the percentage contribution of total revenue, you will see that excise duty accounts for 13%, which is pretty much among the highest. VAT 28%. You see other income tax at 20%. That still tells you that when it really comes to those areas that are bigger contributors, then excise duty, it really falls among the fourth among that brackets of the local taxes you're actually getting in. Good. A lot of cries, a lot of concerns, and this morning we are joined by Charles Deriot from KRA just to come in and tell us what is really going on. And this is my first question to you, Mr. Cheriot. Yes, we have to know that this is a requirement by the law, that your office is pretty much going to look at where we are in terms of inflation and adjust excise duty on these various products. But somebody's going to ask you, is it really timely now when the economy is trying to come into terms with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you, Mr. Program this morning. I would like to talk to you about the reason why we actually require the adjustments insofar as excise duty, and because the law provides Kenya Revenue Authority with the mandate of adjusting it for purpose of only cater the inflationary measures that has taken place, mainly because we have got to keep pace with the requirements of the law. That means in terms of the inflation, then the excise duties have actually to be adjusted to be in tandem therewith. The reason why we are actually doing this is actually in compliance with the law. I hope each and every of advisory on what government ought to have done insofar as meeting the requirements of the Constitution is concerned to that gender rule. And therefore, this is also a requirement that we need as Kenya Revenue Authority to have to keep pace with the law, so that Kenyans will not actually come out there, because the Constitution is not a preserve of particular individuals, but it is a preserve of each and every Kenyan who is out there. If he finds that there is a legal requirement that Kenya Revenue Authority or any authority, for instance, not only Kenya Revenue Authority, that it has to meet as far as the law is concerned, every Kenyan out there, if he finds that the persons who are actually supposed to implement it is actually mandated to go to court and actually raise an issue, with the court as to why such an authority or that state organ has not actually complied with the law. And therefore, insofar as this issue is concerned, we are actually very much aware as far as the pandemic issue, the effects of the pandemic is concerned. And therefore, it is only the dictates of the law that requires us to fulfill. And therefore, the adjustments that we have actually provided is that it is only 4.94% of whatever was supposed to be, because the law actually gives the Commissioner General or the Minister, the CS, in charge of finance, to adjust excise duty rates with respect to excise duties up to a maximum of 10%. But
Yes.
we have actually only heeded to the cries of the Kenyans, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and many other Kenyans out there. We have actually heeded them and actually adjusted the rates only by 4.94%.
Charles, if you may allow me, that's where the conversation point now begins, because I want to take you back to what actually the Kenya Association of Manufacturers and other players were saying. They were saying, look, we are not against you adjusting it right now. They were saying, look, some of these products that you're targeting are the ones that we're trying to push now into the economy after most of the consumers were avoiding them because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And they're saying, well, if you again tax them further, it means that the consumers are not going to go into them that much, meaning that even when you're going to look at your tax collections at the end of the day, and they mentioned that we're not only looking at our side, they were saying that even your collections are going to get affected because people are pretty much going to look for lesser alternatives, and that's going to affect the business now.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Simba. Now, if you look at the issue, the questions of the product that we are actually talking about here, these are products that we call them, they are not essentials per se, but they are products that we can describe them as comfort products. The only item that we have here is only petroleum, which has actually come into the fore, but all the other products that we are actually looking at in terms of products like juices, products like sodas, products like cosmetics. So these are products that we are talking about, which are not essentials per se, but they are comfort products, which of course Kenyans can be able to afford them if they need to. It is actually a choice product. You need to have to make a choice, because if you don't, even at the end of the day, anyway, consume them, your life will still continue. But insofar as the petroleum is concerned, yes, we can actually understand that the question of petroleum is going to have a ripple effect, because petroleum is an input. So most of other products, this is a driver of the economy. But what can we do? This is what the law, the dictates of the law. And we actually understand that there are also other taxes that have actually been reduced, like a VAT has actually been reduced from 16% to 14%. And also corporate tax has been reduced from a high of 30% to 25%. And
Yes.
these actually, you see the combined is actually 7% reduction, but we are only increasing this rate by 4.94%, which of course is almost 5%. So the Kenyans also still have a latitude to play with the other 2%, which of course at the end of the day, the 2% can still be able to compensate for what you have actually lost as far as the excise duties are concerned. And also, Mr. Arati, that the excise duty that we are actually talking about here, we are talking about it is not every product that affects our economy, but it's only affecting a certain sector, and that is what we call the comfort sector, where you actually need to make a choice in order to consume them. If you don't, then you are not going to be affected. Your pocket will never be affected at the end of the day.
Yes,
you
Charles.
actually afford using them.
Yes, Charles, if you may, I want to bring in George Munga. He's the managing partner, AMG Kenya. So you can come in, George, and weigh in on this. And Charles, I want you to listen to exactly what you're going to say. At this point, I just want to take back so I have you gentlemen really argue about this. Now, George, yes, they did argue, and then they said if you increase them right now, essentially what you're doing is pretty much not increasing them, because Charles is saying, well, it's not everything, it's 31 products, which also essentially look as a comfort product. Cam told them, don't do that, because if you do that, you're essentially again driving business away from these products because they are comfort products, and that's going to affect business. George, Charles is here. What perspective do you take on this issue?
I think, Elijah, I want to agree with Charles on one aspect. That is, it is the prerogative of Kenya Revenue Authority, and by extension, the Treasury, to review some of these tax rates. So that is well within their mandate. The only aspect that I might not agree with is the timing of these increases. Remember, when you increase taxes on petroleum, then basically you've increased taxes on almost every product and service across the country. We are still grappling with the pandemic, and companies have closed down. Charles, Simba, you're aware, companies are grappling with staying afloat. And therefore, if you introduce a tax that is likely to affect their output, or is likely to affect their sales, then what you're simply telling them is that they should close shop and go home. So that is the problem that I have with the increases. I think the timing is not right. We would have waited probably for another quarter or 2 quarters, then we can review some of these taxes. And then, Elijah, if I may take you back, excise duty, we've had a bit of tussle between the manufacturers and Kenya Revenue Authority when it comes to excise duty. Remember when you're talking about the beer manufacturers the other day, and that came to pass. So I think the manufacturers and the taxman should sit down and set up a tax rate that will take us maybe for 2-3 years, so that the manufacturers can be able to factor this in their budget for another 2-3 years, other than increasing these maybe year in, year out. It doesn't work out very well for the manufacturers. The second point is, remember the president announced the ESP1 and the ESP2, and ESP1 gave a lot of tax breaks for companies that operate in Kenya. Remember, we have a tax break in income tax that was reviewed from 30% to 25%. We have a tax break on VAT that was reviewed from 16 to 14%, and we have a tax break on pay as you earn that was also reviewed. I think it is when these taxes, when excise duty is now brought in, probably the way manufacturers would look at it is an action of giving with the right hand and taking with the left hand. So probably that is something that Treasury should come out clean, or KRA should come out clean and explain to manufacturers that probably the reason why we are increasing this tax at this point is because of A, B, C, and D. I would presume that policymakers at the taxman or at Treasury should be looking at ways of increasing employment levels in the country at this moment. I think this is not the time to look at how much you can raise from the economy, but how much you can be able to absorb in terms of employment. So I would want to agree with KMA, that is the Kenya Steel Manufacturers, that increasing this tax is not a bad idea per se, but I think the timing is not right. I would presume that this is a tax that should have been reviewed maybe from the second quarter of next year. Then that would be understandable. But now, maybe I don't agree with the taxman at this point. That is my take, Elijah.
Pretty much, Charles, I just want you to hold on your thoughts, because then you're going to react to exactly what George Munga, managing partner at AMG Kenya, is saying this morning. I want to bring in Washington Daguerre, is the chairman of Bima Intermediaries Association of Kenya. Now, Washington, Charles is saying, good, fine. You can say that we should have listened and then say, well, there's no need of us adjusting these taxes. But by law, the taxman must have factored that in, so that we don't look back and say, well, why did you not readjust them?
Well, my two colleagues are very, very right. Because the timing of the collection of the tax right now, as we speak, is very, very wrong. Because, I mean, look at where the economy is right now. We are in fact, this COVID-19 pandemic has produced what we call a recession. And in a recession, the economy doesn't grow. And in a recession, you don't start taxing people more, so to speak. Where are you gonna get the taxes from? And Simba, my biggest problem with this country is this: we keep on taxing people, but the money that is collected as tax benefits some few people in form of corruption. We've all seen what happens at KRA. These collection officers, some of them. And you see, KRA to a certain extent needs to be very, very sensitive to what is happening in this economy. Because you cannot keep on excess duty. These taxes, as good as they are they actually being put into correct use? Fine, it's okay to say they've deferred the tax for the next 6 months, but does it mean that come January that the country will be ready to be taxed more? And you see, this the same thing also applied to the insurance industry some time back. The insurance industry was introduced an excise duty, which was not workable. We had to go to court to have it stopped. KRA is in a desperate bid to collect money, but we feel to a certain extent that things are not right. Things are not happening. The collection of revenue in this country is not happening the way it's supposed to happen, Simba.
Charles, let me bring you in as well so that we can actually sort of give us an inside out outlook of what the two gentlemen are saying. They say the tax is no bad, fine, but this could have been the time. Now, we do know as from next the Commissioner General will not have this leeway of just issuing a legal notice and then the adjustments begin to happen. What position do you think that will put KRA in as from next year onwards? Because there's this general feeling that had that law been effective now, then some of these adjustments would have not come to effect.
Thank you, Mr. Arati, George, and Washington. For your contributions towards this subject matter. I think what we need to know and understand is that KRA actually does not work in a vacuum. It works within the precincts or the boundaries of the law. One of the things that it is not that it is only just by coincidence that when we are actually in the month of October, like last year, we also adjusted our rates of inflationary rates in the month of October. And it is only that it has just happened that it is because of this pandemic now, which of course began in March. If we had actually adjusted in March, then we would actually have been claimed that Kenya Revenue Authority is not actually being sensitive. But find that it come April, we actually made a lot of adjustments. We gave a lot of tax breaks to a number of taxpayers, as my colleagues have already said, when it comes to issues of employment income. That is people who are on salaried employment. The government gave them tax-free amounts from 16,000 Kenya shillings up to 24,000 Kenya shillings. So you will find that it's almost per month, we are actually getting around 8,000 Kenya shillings, which of course actually it's amount of money that we have put in the pockets of the lowly paid Kenyans. 8,000 Kenya shillings per month, which of course is a reprieve. And the Kenyans are saying, okay, which of course Kenyans are, I think they are actually very happy about. Government has given them money up to that level. Now, when it comes to the issues of, we are actually looking at the law. And when it comes to the issues of law, as I already said from my opening remarks, is that Kenyans are very much teachers in the sense that if you find there is anything that has not been done, the Kenyans would actually be ready to go to court. It is irrespective of no matter what, you need to do this. Then if you fail to do, you will find a Kenyan going out there, a civil society going out there, that the Commissioner General has not actually executed this mandate. And therefore, we find these are issues that are actually time-bound, they are fixed by law, and therefore Kenya Revenue has no latitude in terms of extending. There is a lot of cries to many Kenyans, and the Kenya Revenue Authority in itself is living within the Kenyans. It is part and parcel of the Kenyan community, and therefore the kind of we put in place in collections of taxes is concerned. Kenya Revenue Authority feeling, or Commission feeling it. Therefore, of the latitude of you have And therefore, it has also come a time that, yes, indeed, we also need to adjust it come this October. And if you find the rate of inflation that has actually happened between June last year up to October last year, June last year up to June this year, then the rate of inflation is actually more than 4.94%. It's more than 5%. Then, but the government in itself, in its wisdom, saw it not necessary that we need to go as per those rates. But we have actually took in a very minimal rate of 4.94%. Now, on the other issues, that in a sense, as I was saying, these are essential items. They are not essential as empathy, and therefore it may not actually affect essentially our economy. As I have already said, these are comfort. These are choice products. If you don't want to consume, then you will not be affected by it. When it comes to the issues of employment, there are so many, only 131 products. The only product that I have said is actually the petroleum. But in terms of the other 30 products that have actually been subjected to increased rates of excise duty, all of them are choice products. They are products that you may choose not to consume, like bottled water, mineral water. Do you need actually would you actually, most of the Kenyans who are the significant populations in our country are not actually consuming bottled water. But I'm not saying that those people who consume bottled water have to be punished by being imposed unnecessary duties or pay more and more taxes. But it is a choice. You can go and get water from your tap and drink it. They are very safe. And most of the people out there in the countrysides they don't even have tapped water. When you talk about you have increased the prices of excise duty on bottled water, it's actually strange to them. But insofar as this issue is concerned, I think we need to be very honest with ourselves that yes, indeed, we have increased, but we have the dictates of the law that guides us in actually doing all these things. So insofar as other issues are concerned, talks about corruption and all that, I'm not actually is a subject that is a matter that can be handled not by me, but it's a matter that is not a subject of this discussion. Thank you very much.
Pretty much. Charles Chariot is the manager at KRA Policy and Tax Advisory. We thank you very much for joining us this morning for this conversation. Now we take a short break, but once we do come back though, we're going to move away from those tax adjustments that are going to be with us for the next financial year and go into the agriculture sector and the insurance sector. Now we do know there are things that are happening there. What are they? We know them once we come back. 20146. That is your SMS line at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms.